Giants have been in the culture of Earth for as long as it's been around, it seems. Almost every culture, every continent has stories of giants. And I'm not talking about the Jolly Green Giant or Paul Bunyan. I am talking about man eating giants, uh, giants of great stature, great height, great abilities, giants that could build incredible buildings. Almost every megalithic structure on Earth has some folklore or legends or myth about giants actually having built many of them. Um, and so I find that to be very intriguing that all along the world, the most incredible structures that we find have something to do with giants. And like I said, in every single culture around the world, we always see some kind of giants in almost every single one. One that was a little bit hard that I didn't do a lot of research on, but I don't know much about would be China. And I just think that their information is probably more locked down than everybody else's. And I've seen, giant humans that they have pictures of. Tajing, I think his name is, super tall person, um, kind of like Robert Wadlow. I think he was the tallest human at 8 in modern history, and 8 feet 11 inches. He was nearly 9 feet tall. But when you talk about those people, they're really, they're Homo sapiens they're extremely tall, but they have lots of problems. They normally don't get very old. Uh, they're not, I mean, you know what I mean? They're frail. The older they get, the more frail they get. Their joints wear out. They're not very, um, these are not very scary giants. These are, these people that we see in modern day times that reach that kind of height, 7 or 8 or 9 feet or whatever. I think they're probably um, blood related to these giants, probably passed down through the generations. But when we're talking about giants of the past, we're talking about really big, not just necessarily tall, but their stature was bigger, meaning their bone structure was bigger, their muscles were bigger. Even a 7 or 8 foot tall, giant that we're talking about, that's a different species other than Homo sapien. And again, we have some 7 foot tall. We got Shaquille O'Neal, 7'1", I think. Yao Ming um, is nearly 7'7" or something like that. Um, I mean, those are big guys, and they're pretty agile and they can move around a bit. Um, but again, we're talking about even beings that were 7 or 8 feet tall that were much bigger in stature, much larger bones, and then some that well beyond 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, 20 feet. There are some stories of some giants around the world being in the 20s and 30s, 30 feet something tall, 36 feet tall, I think is one of the tallest ones I've read about. So Cyclops is one that's we hear about from Homer's Iliad and Odysseus and meeting the Cyclops and a lot of people say Homer stories were just stories, made up stories, but literally, the Trojan horse, they thought that was a fake story, but someone took the story itself and went and found the city of Troy based on the story. So, to just throw his, stuff away and call it legend and mythology and say that it's not real, I think is a big disservice. I mean, these are all records and stories of things that I believe honestly truly happened. And the Cyclops, there's not just one Cyclops, and I think the multiple Cyclopeans, I think that's how you say it, for multiple Cyclops, but there was literally islands of Cyclops people who lived there, of giant stature. Stonehenge is one of the legends of Stonehenge is that it was literally built by giants, by giant people. It makes sense. Those stones are super big. How they got them there, they either levitated them or someone of great stature was able to move them. I'm not going to sit here and claim to know exactly how it happened, but certainly just modern day Homo sapiens without the use of magic or something else. I just don't see these people being able to pull these huge blocks around, drag them around, and pick them up and put them on top of other stones. I mean, like I said, it's either giants or some kind of levitation, which people would deem back in history as magic. I already got a block. There it is. So yeah, I think it's possible that giants could have definitely had something to do with it. I mean, all around Stonehenge itself is just a huge burial ground of graves and stuff. Um, so Sumerian is our first civilization that we tend to have the most record about and understanding. Sumerian is where Iraq is today, Babylon, Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization, as it's called. The Sumerian people had the first, governments and everything, man, school systems, and they were the ones who created time as we know it, as far as the 12 hours, 24-hour cycle, 60 minutes, 60 seconds. Sumerians are all about that. They're the ones that created that time scale that way. Um, and on their tablets, you can see to the left, these are the Sumerians over here, the modern day people, and then this is their god. To the right of them, that guy is at least two, probably three times as tall as the average human over here on the left hand side. Um, and there's a lot going on in the scroll. One thing I would just add right here, I believe this little circle right here is probably sound technology and able to move things. So that's one of the things that these people had. Um, and the Sumerians all say they got their information, from these gods that came from Nibiru. Those from those from which came from heaven came down, um, and started these civilizations and created man. According to them, they created the Adamu, plural, the Adam, and he was their slave to mine gold for them, and they created a whole slave race. That's their stories. That's their legends. They had, incredible information at the time. Uh, they had all the planets, including Pluto, which we didn't discover till like 1930. They had the sun being the center of all the planets. They had another planet called Nibiru that they say these Anunnaki people came from. Again, here's another cylinder scroll with these are made of rock, but the one in the middle is the sun, obviously with the planets all around it, with the extra planet. And again, looking at this guy sitting across from these other two, if he was to stand up, he's going to be much taller than the other two guys standing down. This is Gilgamesh, and it's just a statue, but you guys know Gilgamesh is pretty much the equivalent of Noah. And so, he fights the flood and everything and has to build an ark or whatever. But what's interesting about this picture is you might think that is like a little kitty cat that he's holding, but that is a lion. That is straight up a lion that this dude is holding. He's holding a lion, and he looks much bigger than the biggest guy I know that could hold holding a lion. This guy's a giant. Gilgamesh is a giant, and the same thing in Sumerian as well. This is a god. That's not a cat. You can see the mane around it. This is a lion. He's holding a lion like a cat. This is a giant. This is a man of great stature. Probably very physically strong. Muscles are probably bigger than that of an average, who knows, 8, 9, 10 foot tall being, much stronger than that of someone else who just would be considered very tall. In Egypt, I think this is fascinating that they have these incredibly tall statues of humans or people or gods, rather. And you see the size scale with the people here on the ground. I mean, these people are humongous. And why would little tiny humans want to make humans or gods or statues or whatever you want to call it so big? Why would they carve out the stone? These dudes are sitting down. How tall are they going to be standing up? You can see the people at the bottom of the screen. And according to the Egyptians, these 15-foot tall people were like fifth dimensional beings. Remember, I said that because at the end, I'm going to pull all this thing back together in a way you're going to blow your mind probably. But they were saying that these higher dimensional beings were much taller than the average person. And maybe that's exactly what these Anunnaki people were, and other beings throughout the galaxies who have grown to be much taller stature, visiting other planets all around the world, all around the galaxy, the universe. But surely we'll find these kinds of quotes all around the world in every culture. Like I said, almost every ancient texts, but the Bible is definitely not one that, it's definitely one you'll find the same things. No matter what anybody says, I'll go back and look in the Old Testament and find so many things about the Bible about giants. It's incredible. But you literally on one of your first pages, Genesis 6, there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men because they were fair, basically because they look good. This is literally saying that giant people came down from the sky and had sex with women on earth. Now, there's only two ways. Well, there's three things. One, this is a totally false statement, totally false, made up. It's not real at all. Number two, people came out of another dimension called heaven, right? And came down to earth in a perfect place. Nothing could be any better. They're going to leave that dimension and come into another dimension. Okay. Number three, people from the heavens, everything outside of Earth's atmosphere, the heavens, came from other star systems, other planets, and came here. And God created us all in his image, all in his likeness. So literally we're all, more like family, brothers and sisters, and we all probably look more alike. You look at the Fibonacci sequence, the golden ratio, 2 eyes, 1 nose, 1 mouth, 5 fingers, 2 legs, 2 arms, 1 head. This is, that's how life is for the most part, bilateral symmetry that we have on our planet. It's likely that the same thing is probably what's going to happen on other planets. We look like them because they helped create us. The Sumerians said the Anunnaki took their DNA, mixed it with the DNA of the people on the planet, and created Homo sapiens. So we look like them. But we all look alike. Even if we're going to evolve naturally, we're all going to still look very similar. Numbers 13:33, again in the Bible. And there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak. And again, I'm a country boy, so enunciation is not my best, but I'll do my best to try to enunciate words as best I can. Which come of the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight. So literally saying, and this is Numbers. So Numbers, Deuteronomy, and the Old Testament, the Torah, all the books of Moses, when they're all searching for the promised land and they're all going out and going to these different places, he sends people out, he sends scouts out all the time to different cities, and they would come back and he would say, what did you see over there? And he's like, we saw dudes that were so big, we were literally but grasshoppers to them. Now, you're not talking, a 7 or 8 foot tall or 9 foot tall, 10 foot tall person, yeah, that's a humongous person. But I still think that the word grasshopper isn't even relevant to someone who's probably 10 feet tall. I would say when you're talking about someone that you're a grasshopper to, it's much, much bigger than that. And they came back and said over and over, these were cities that the walls touched heaven. They were so big and so mighty, and they were men of such huge stature. Here's one in particular of a guy, old King Bashan. He remained of the remnant of the Rephaim. So you got the Rephaim, everybody knows. Well, maybe you don't know. The Nephilim is what most people know when you hear about giants. It's what the sons of God came into the daughters of women. So beings from other planets probably came and had sex with the women of our planet and created the Nephilim. Those were incredibly tall giants, right? So there are 2 other words for these same kind of beings. So Nephilim, the Rephaim, and the Anakim. All those 3 things mean basically the same thing when you go back and you look at it. Most people don't know that, I don't think, but they're all basically the sons of the giants. When people talk about, so the Rephaim, the Nephilim, and the Anakim, all about the same thing. Behold, his bedstead was a bedstead of iron. Is it not the rabbi of the children of Ammon? 9 cubits was the length thereof, and 4 cubits the breadth of it, after the cubit of a man. So it's detestable. Obviously, the word cubit, there's rural cubits, there's other cubits, but I'll go back here and show you. Og of Bashan, some people say he was 12 to 18 feet tall. And, a lot of times people say, oh, these are giants. They meant like men of great stature, men of great wisdom and knowledge and things they shouldn't have known. They came out. if that's true, why are they telling you the size of this dude's bed? You know, why do they tell you the size of their swords and the size of their shields and the size of their spears? Like the, calling these people giants in the way that they're smarter or they have more understanding, it doesn't add up. I think that's just people who haven't read the Bible, they haven't read these other stories, and they're just making stuff up to that kind of fills in the holes of their story of history, because the Bible is full of stories telling exactly how tall these guys are. Again, because of the cubit situation and different kinds of cubits, it's hard to say. But I mean, we're talking about a dude that was 12, maybe to 18 feet tall or more. Bashan was a humongous man. Um, and so here's some skeletons of stuff that have been found. People say Goliath was 10 and a half feet, give or take some. Here's Og at 12. And different people. And then here's one, and the Carthaginians uncovered, an earthquake, a 36-foot tall being. And again, I don't think we're talking about a 36-foot tall Homo sapien that just happened, his pituitary gland was overworking, and he happened to be 36 feet tall. I'm talking about another species of hominid that was far beyond capacity and stature, muscle, and all the things that we think of as when we think of as a hominid being. This dude was a monster at 36 feet. He wasn't just a 36 foot tall. And again, these things are hard to find. I mean, it's even to do research nowadays on these things, it's hard to get all the information on it. It's really limited. Pictures are limited. Information is limited. You really got to search for a long time to find a lot of things. Not only is the physical matter, the bones, some of the weapons, the stuff in history that's been lost to us, probably a lot of us in the Vatican in the basement, but it's the information now that's being completely just destroyed and pushed out. And Google's not letting certain things be looked at and researched. And I remember researching these things 10 plus years ago, and I remember typing giants in and finding things that were incredible, and now it's like you type in giants, you get some Super Bowl stuff, you get some football teams, you get a Jolly Green Giant, and Paul Bunyan and stuff. You just don't get the good stuff that you're looking for. You have to work really hard to find these things now. But again, like I said, in the Bible there are tons of stories of giants and giant families. Even Goliath, because we don't know, but in the Jewish Midrash, Goliath was a giant from a giant family. He wasn't one random dude who was just big. His family was big, his brothers were big, his kids were giants. This dude was from a whole giant family. He was from another species of hominid, I believe. I don't think this guy was a Homo sapien. I think he was something different. And again, probably what we call the Nephilim, the Rephaim, those kinds of people who, like I said, they had sex with the women of the earth. They created humongous giants, and then as those guys had sex with other women, and they started to get smaller over time. But the initial, from those who came from the heavens and had sex, they created the biggest ones, and then it started to dwindle down as time went on. But certainly Goliath is probably the most known giant, maybe in the world from the past, just because the story of David and Goliath, obviously, and David was able to slay the giant with just his slingshot. And we all know that story. But definitely, lots of other stories of wars and fighting throughout biblical times and before and after, where giants are mentioned and people fighting them. A lot of times they're bloodthirsty dudes who love to eat humans. So one of the things about giants is they do die. They don't live forever. This is what is called a giant's grave. It's a dolmen, Dolmens, and they're found mostly in Europe, France, all in that area, all over, and it's basically like just a signature grave that maybe giants built, that were basically burying their brothers or their families or something. But they're huge rocks that normally they take a couple rocks straight up and down, and as you can see, the top rock is laid over the top, um, to create, I guess, something that's probably makes it really difficult to dig up underneath here. I mean, you would have to have um, some pretty incredible equipment just to knock those things down to dig underneath them. So my guess is, it's to signify that's who's under here, but also probably that of basically a small security system. So like it does make it a bit harder for um, for people to dig these guys up now because they're underneath these huge rocks and they're going to have to get those rocks off to get them, unless they figure out another way to do it. But so I guess it's just for security system purposes and uh, to also just signify these are great individuals of great stature underneath. Um, we also find the weapons sometimes, you know what I mean? We have found swords and shields and spears that of lengths and weights that no modern day human is going to be able to swing. Nobody's swinging that axe behind that lady. I believe that's a Minoan axe, and they have all kinds of. Most of the wood's probably deteriorated, but the metal, the iron stuff that's built for the axe itself, they find a lot of these things all over the place, and some of them are massive. So, I mean, are you gonna make it? Is someone gonna just make an argument that somebody took the time and the energy and the resources to build something that was unusable for for Homo sapien, or is this something that someone built because it had relevance and it was something that somebody needed to use in battle, and they were just a tall giant person that needed something this big? I tend to think the latter is that's obviously what it has to be. You know what I mean? There's no reason why you're going to be building these things if no one can use them. One of the great stories of giants was Ferdinand Magellan. Ferdinand Magellan goes down to South America, um, in what is now called Patagonia. You guys know the Patagonia sweater. Well, Patagonia is a place. According to Ferdinand Magellan, when he was pulling up to South America, he and all the people on his ship, he wrote that they saw a giant person dancing and looked like they were singing on the beach, throwing sand up in the air, falling on their heads, and just having a great time. And so he literally takes one of the crew members and sends them off, and he goes and starts hanging out with them, and it's a naked giant that they're hanging out with. And the word Patagonia comes from they called them Patagones, and it literally means big feet. That they went on the beach and they saw tons of footprints of feet that were humongous in comparison to them. And there are plenty of drawings and things like that to indicate that these are the kinds of people that they saw, these kind of barefooted, naked. I guess sometimes they did wear these things, but a lot of the literature that I read, they were naked practically, and that they were just, and this looks a little bit bigger, but in the stories I read, some of them said that they didn't come up to their waist. That these giants were so big they didn't even make it to their waist. Their heads didn't come to the waist of the people. But I find that to be incredible, that a whole entire land that's called Patagonia, based on people who are huge and have much bigger feet. I mean, again, when these explorers, Ferdinand Magellan, Strait of Magellan, you're talking about, this incredible explorer who goes all over the world looking at things. I don't think he's just going to make something up, at some one place that he went to. Like, hey, man, we saw these people that were so tall, we only went to their waist. And, so we even named the land after those people, basically, that when we went there. It doesn't jive to me that that these are made up stories, and with the drawings and the things that they put in their diaries and stuff. It just, I think these are real stories, real accounts. A lot of people.
Jacob,
Yeah.
the tale of the large people in Chile and Patagonia region is true, and it's part of archaeological record. But one thing to realize is that people were shorter then. And so they were large, and there are, as I understand, bones that have been recovered, and but they were, as far as I know, they were Homo sapiens in that case. And
I
there
mean,
were a race of giant people that were pre-Inca that made the forts that overlooked the Amazon.
mhm.
And it's such a thing in South America. There's a fort in Barranquilla, Colombia, where the openings are like 4 foot high because the bad guys were taller.
Mhm.
And so they had made the fort to exclude this larger peoples. But and every now and then you'll run. I knew a guy in Venezuela that was 8 foot tall, or from Venezuela, but they every now and then you'll see someone in, say, Peru, who is 2 heads above the average Peruvian, Peruvian, and so it still occurs. It's just as coming out in, you know, the hidden genetics.
Yeah,
And
I mean, even the whole story of Wonder Woman, right? It's based on the Amazonians, the large women from South America. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying these weren't necessarily Homo sapiens, but even if they're 5 feet tall, beings, and they only come to their waist, that means they're still, 10 feet tall, probably, at least. If you go up someone's waist, that means they're almost twice as tall as you. That's a pretty big difference. So, um, it's just very interesting. I think Dan's right. They're definitely true stories. I'd love to see some bones. I'd love to see some more stuff. But again, with a lot of these things, I think it's open and shut cases. When those things are found, it's taken over by governments, and it's just not something that's put out in the museums where it deserves to be. These bodies, the skeletons, any mummies or anything like that, they deserve to be in museums for all to see, for all to know about. Instead, we left basically with stories and diaries entries and things like that. So we're doing the best we can to put things together. But I think these people were probably remnants of those same types of beings that we're talking about in the past, in the biblical times. They're just getting smaller over time. But I do think there's some big people still out there, still today on this planet. And so, yeah, again, they have lots of cool little drawings and pictures from different journals and different things. This one's from 1764. But just really cool that they were entire, beings. And like I said, where are they at now? Where are those people at now? In Central America. So we're moving from South America, Central America, same thing. This comes from the Codex Vaticanus. Again, I'm hard pronouncing these things. Vaticanus, basically an old Greek Bible, older than the current Bible. And this picture comes out of that, from Central America, that these Quinaminsan, I believe I'm saying that right, were giants from the Aztec culture. And the Aztecs said that there were giants there that they had to defeat and take over. These people, these giants, and their culture and their folklore and their mythology and their history, were said to have built the temples in their area. So Chichen Itza, Teotihuacan. Teotihuacan means the place where man becomes God. They said, according to them, these were the people, the Quinaminsan were the ones that built the temples and the stuff in Mexico that we all go see today, that we attribute to other people. They said these things were built by giants. And so I tend to think that could be exactly what's happening. These are people who probably did build this. I mean, again, it's hard to say exactly every single one, every single temple, but the fact that there's stories all around the world, from the Bible to Central America, South America, and we'll see some others here in a minute, but giants being in the legend partly of building great temples and dwelling in them, and then eventually modern day Homo sapien type beings being able to take them over. And then we'll move up to North America. And in North America, and we have all these mounds. I don't know if you guys ever been to the mounds, mostly in the east. Um, Serpent Mound. I used to frequent Etowah Indian Mounds in Cartersville, Georgia, a lot. That was my place to go. Um, but there are mounds all up and down Mississippi, uh, East Side, Iowa, Illinois, Missouri, tons of huge mounds, sometimes 60 feet tall, where people are just taking earth and building up mounds. It seems like, why would someone do this? Um, no one's really sure today exactly what was going on there, and I'm open to all kinds of suggestions. But one of the things that people say they see when they find these mounds is there are giants inside of them. So in this picture alone, it says Serpent Mound, 7 foot tall, and we've got all the way up into West Hickory, Pennsylvania, where an 18-foot tall being was found. That's just a massive, being. Are these Native Americans? According to them, no. Native Americans did not call these people their own. These were giants, and they had legends of them that were man-eating people, similar to the ones of other cultures we've already talked about. A very really cool story. These Native Americans chased these red-haired giants into a cave in Nevada, what we now call Nevada. It's called now Lovelock Cave. And the Native Americans, a huge group of them, chased these giants into the cave and wanted them to come out so they could, fight them, but the giants wouldn't come out. And so they set the cave on fire and killed them all. And, obviously they left them there. And then later in the early 1900s, these guano miners, guano bat poop, people who are going to go collect bat poop for whatever reason, they go in this cave, Lovelock Cave in Nevada, and they find skulls, bodies, some 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, reports up to 12 feet tall, rare red-headed giants. The Smithsonian took this over, and those bodies are no longer to be found. The only thing is I've seen is these couple of skulls right here. Even on the show Ancient Aliens, they go back and they look at them, and they have to go into a back room, not out in the open, to see these skulls. They're not out and just openly displayed out with other things. And obviously they don't show the bodies, and no one knows where the bodies are. So the Smithsonian comes in, takes over, takes all the stuff, and now we don't have any record of it at all, really, except for these skulls that happen to be in the back that they aren't displayed with anything else. Very sad. I think it's very sad, but it's very obvious that there is a huge cover-up to keep us to knowing that giants totally exist. And here's one of the pictures from Lovelock Cave of one of the beings that they found, red-haired giants. So we're talking about lighter skin, red-haired people. Not like the dark-skinned, dark-haired people of the Native Americans that we know of. These are completely different sizes. And what's funny even today is that people still say they see large footprints around Lovelock Cave. So are all the giants gone? I don't know. Maybe there's some still around. I think it's definitely possible. They're just very careful about getting out there because they don't want anybody to get them, and with good reason. And when I was talking about the mounds, this is similar. I think this is Etowah Indian mounds. But these kind of mounds are all over the east, northeast, southeast, eastern part of the United States. And like I said, inside them, a lot of times they do find bones, and often big bones, big giant bones. And maybe they're just giants' graves. Maybe this was easy for someone to build. Maybe the giants built these. Who knows? But I think they've been around for a lot longer than people give them credit for. And so these next couple of pictures, obviously, I am not trying to convince anybody that these are real. I honestly don't know. I hope some of them are real. I hope they're not all fakes. I'm sure this one looks fake to me, but they're just really for reference more than anything. So, obviously, there are things that are found out there, and sadly, eventually, someone comes along and finds out what they're digging up, and they get rid of it, and they sweep it under the rug, and so people don't get to talk about it. People don't get to see it. It doesn't go into a museum where they belong, where they deserve to be, so we can see this history and we can put it together instead of the history that's in a history book that we're told this is how it all went down, this is how it all happened. Um, and it's sad that we lose this history, and we're not able to find out exactly what happened in the past, what or all these just myth and things that happened. But certainly the legends, the stories, the artifacts, the weapons that we find, it all couldn't be just some large figment of someone's imagination, or just completely stories to tell kids or something. There's way more to it. I believe that there have been giants, that we have dug up big bones like this before. I have no doubts, even in America, even stuff like this. I think footprints like this, they exist. They're out there. Getting the information on finding where exactly this footprint is tough. Unless you're someone like Michael Tellinger. This one is a great one. You have to zoom in and look at it, but this is basically hard rock now. But this looks like a giant footprint. You can even see the toes of what this used to look like. It was like a muddy area, and this giant hit it, and his foot slipped up a little bit and pushed it up and curled up the mud at the end as he pulled his foot out. And there's no doubt to me that this is a footprint. And if that's a footprint and it's, you know, almost the size of Tellinger himself, this is in Africa. You're talking about a really big dude, you know what I mean? A really big dude. This is not a Homo sapien that has a pituitary gland that's out of control. This is something different. It's something way different. And I think this is a good indicator that this is it happened. There's evidence. Even if we can't get the bones, there's other evidence sometimes that, there's no, you can't come up with any explanation that's going to make this exist. I mean, this is either something that's just fake. And I've seen, like I said, dozen pictures of people. I've heard Michael Tellinger sitting there and talk videos and videos and talk about this picture while he's sitting there and talking in front of it. I believe him. I think he's an incredible dude. He's got a lot of stuff going on. If you don't know about him, let me know. He's doing some big things with money and stuff to stop the centralized banking system. But yeah, this I believe is a real footprint of a real giant that was in the past. And they even tried to get a little zoom in here where you can see the toes and how the big big toe on the right and those smaller toes are in there, and how all the stuff comes up like it's mud. And just it's a fossil almost now, basically. I mean, and fossils and stuff like this are incredibly rare. It's way less than 1% of all the animals that ever existed turn into fossils. A fossil is just an absolute miracle on top of a miracle to happen. Something like this, a footprint in the sand, in the dirt that turns into rock, it's just a miracle. I mean, we even have now footprints next to dinosaurs. People say people didn't live with dinosaurs. I 100% believe that people lived alongside dinosaurs. And the evidence shows that there are literally footprints that are found, that we have found right alongside dinosaurs. So, history as we know it is really, different from what we've been told, vastly different. And so this is another giant here that I feel is imperative to talk about, because these giants for sure still exist. The wild man, the wild people. When I was talking about the Sumerians earlier and talking about the Anunnaki coming down, when the Anunnaki are coming down, they are coming down and mixing their DNA with the modern day hominids on the planet. So you're talking about Cro-Magnon men, Neanderthals, Paleolithic men, people, whatever. These are gorilla type people. These are primates. Obviously Homo sapiens are primates too, but these are cone-shaped heads, no necks, big bones. So they have really big muscles. And the Neanderthal that we see in a history book that's just got like this big brow ridge, a little bit more hair. I think that is just a figment of someone's imagination. That's not true. You just going to tell me they just look a little bit different than Homo sapiens? Probably not. I mean, of course, again, they have the biological symmetry, 2 eyes, 1 nose, 1 mouth, all the things. But I'm talking about all those
all those Cro-Magnon, Neanderthals, Paleolithic, they all look similar to this. Homo sapien is the hominid that looks nothing like the other hominids on the planet. And so this is from the Roger Patterson and the Gimlin film in '67, and people say that this is the fake, a man in a suit. Man, if this is a man in a suit, it's the best man in a suit costume that's ever been, because I don't think there's a suit that you can put on and walk around today where you can see, go back and look, you can see all the muscles in her body are flexing as she walks. She has a herniated disc in her right leg, right about where my cursor is. When she's walking, it pops. You can see it pop. So she literally has a herniated disc popping along as she walks. She's got an injury, and her mammary glands, her boobies are literally jiggling up and down as she walks through the woods. Now, I don't know that there's a gorilla suit out there today that can do that. I don't believe they can. This is a real bona fide video of one of the best that we have. And I believe now we'd have some really good ones out there too. But this is the holy grail of videos of the Sasquatch people. And certainly there are good pictures and videos now that are out there. This is just one that I chose because it is so famous. But this is a female, and one of the things that we have to think about is this is not, although this may at first look like a gorilla, type of animal, when we get to thinking about it, these are going to be giants, giant, species that is probably even much more intelligent and evolved than we are. And so what we have to consider is that I don't even know 100% what the percentages of humans that on the planet, I don't know if anybody really knows the accurate, it's probably like 50% of humans on the planet believe that Sasquatch people exist, right? Of course, when you go to different areas, different places, even if you go somewhere like Mount Rainier in Washington, I mean, there's statues and stuff all over, a lot more stories than somewhere else in a big city, where people around that area know that Sasquatch people exist. But regardless, whatever the percentage is, a lot of people on our planet still don't believe they exist. Everybody in their species knows humans exist, 100%. They're already one up on us, big time. And they don't care about our politics and our religion and our light beer and our stupid TV shows that we watch on television and the things that we go to. They don't care about that. They care about each other. They care about their families, taking care of each other. I think they live longer. And they're different kinds of them too. So go back and look into this picture, a little bit more ape-like. I flip to a picture like this. This looks a little more human. This looks more like Neanderthal type, what people talk about. And there are literally people who say, I've seen Sasquatch, it looks really gorilla-like. And there are people who say, I saw Sasquatch, it looked like a man. It looked like a human. They're different kinds. That I've heard different terms. And one of the terms for the human ones seem to be the ancient ones. Ancient people who they are people. They have their own language. I believe they can speak our language. I think that they can pick up on anything a lot faster than we pick on them. They're much more in like a childlike state than we are. So they're able to adapt and learn and grow and evolve faster, much more faster than we are. They could learn a language in probably pretty much a day, the main things, just picking up on things and listening to things, where it takes us a lot longer. A small child can pick up on languages pretty quickly within weeks or months and have a lot of things mastered. But I think the synopses here are firing much faster. They're not eating processed food. They're not eating garbage. They're not drinking fluorinated water. I mean, these are the organic humans. And when we talk about Neanderthals and stuff, that they're 5 feet tall for the most part. I believe over the course of their evolution, these guys are getting bigger. These guys are, and some are still smaller, but these ones that we're seeing in North America, that some people say are 10, 11, 12, some people say 15 feet tall, they've seen Sasquatch people. These are the modern day organic giants. And some of them, because of their consciousness, because of their awareness, are becoming more enlightened. many of them on average are much more enlightened than the average Homo sapien, and their highest peak of individuals with their highest awareness is much more higher than our awareness of our people. So when we go back and talk about the highest people, the enlightened ones, the Jesus, the Buddhas, the Krishnas, one of the things in particular that Christ said when he came back, he said, "I'll have red glowing eyes." When people see the Sasquatch people, they have eye shine, and they do too have red glowing eyes. I believe that's not because they're demonic monsters. I personally believe the reason that Christ was come back with his red glowing eyes, like in Star Wars and things, is his fire inside of his body. We're all made of earth, air, water, and fire. And his fire and their compassion and their passion is so heightened. They're literally like burning inside. They're like glowing. Their eyes are lit up with flames like a Christ, and they're able to see and walk around at night perfect. You know what I mean? They, just like the lights on, they can see. And I think that's something that they can do. I think that's something that we could do as well. We're just not in that heightened state. But I chose a couple of these pictures because I do believe that these giants, many of them, very high magnitude of understanding, awareness. Of course, we go up into their areas and stuff like that, and they have to scare us to get us out. But for the most part, most people don't ever say they come after them, that they, try to do anything to them. Most of them try to walk away and get away from the Homo sapiens. They're not there to cause them harm. They're trying to get away and not be seen as quickly as possible. For the most part, there are some stories around the world of Sasquatches definitely attacking and killing some people for sure. Some would definitely seem to become more aggressive than others. But there is no doubt all over the world, in certain areas, especially with high precipitation and things, that these giants still 100% exist. And I think this one probably right here is a juvenile Sasquatch beings.
Little baby.
Yeah, baby, a juvenile. Yeah, and he's going to grow into Big Daddy over here. And one of the things, these pictures right here in particular, I think are really great. But they come from a guy named Todd Standing. He's, a field researcher finding Sasquatches, and some of his videos are just incredible. I can't believe what some of the things he gets. And I've seen one of his videos where Sasquatch like runs up a mountain in 2 steps. You're just like, holy smokes, how did that thing do that? But when you go back and you read some of your biblical stories and talk about some of these hairy people and these giants that they're talking about, I can guarantee you that some of these are Sasquatch type people. These organic, humans, not domesticated humans like these that we have become. We are domesticated. We live on concrete. We buy food at the grocery store. We're not wild anymore, right? And we're becoming more wild. We're becoming more infatuated with these kinds of stories and these kinds of things, and going and living on the land and being self-sustainable. This is the ultimate self-sustainer right here. This is the guardian of the forest, the master of the woods, the guys and girls that we can take some pointers from. You know what I mean? These dudes do it all day long, and their consciousness is much higher than that. And so I believe the fact now that we're seeing 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 foot tall Sasquatch people, I believe that many of these hominids that we call Sasquatches or Bigfoots have moved into 5th density awareness already, and that they are already moving into that. And with that, they're evolving quickly into these larger type beings. And so these aren't, although they may look more apish than like us, they need their hair to stay warm. And we wear clothes and stuff when we're still cold. We have to put big jackets on. Like I said, we're domesticated. It seems like almost like we're de-evolving than evolving. But these guys certainly have mastered niches that we don't live in. They obviously have smelling capabilities, hearing capabilities, survival skills, what to eat in the woods, what not to eat in the woods. And to me, when Terrence McKenna talks about food of the gods in his book, and he's talking about like, you know, ape-like beings, hominids starting to eat mushrooms to evolve. I think that's true, but I don't think they evolved from them into us. I think that they evolved into, Lucy, like the old hominid Lucy that we found in Africa, a couple million years old, and they start to become more Sasquatch, more higher awareness from that. I don't think that we didn't evolve from them, but certainly I think that their DNA is in us. The Anunnaki DNA is in us. We're hybrids. And I think they kind of put a little governor on us to not be able to use our brains as often as we should, as deep as we should. We can. It's just like a trip bypass. We've got to figure out how to get bypast these little walls and stuff that are there. But we're definitely products of both of them. So we have that wild mentality within us, and we have that alien outer space mentality as well. We can use both of these aspects of where we came from and how we evolved to our advantage. But we have to know where we came from and how we came about. That fused chromosome in the chromosomes, to me, is the game stopper when it comes to how humans evolved. I just don't think that we naturally evolved with that fusing of the chromosomes. I think it had to be done that way. And we've just been altered, and not good or bad or whatever. It just is what it is. And, we need to use it to our advantage eventually. We can use it to our advantage if we really, really want to. That's what's super important here, is realizing that our ancestors are giant. We have incredible capabilities deep down within us, and we need to use them. Upon doing this research, I found this picture, and it just struck me hard, because I often believed that military had gone and captured Sasquatch people and probably other giants around the world, because I don't think they're all gone. There are other Sasquatch people, there are other large humanoid type beings around the world. And I do believe that our military probably has some dead and some alive that they actually captured. It's totally possible. These guys are totally, just because they're bigger and stronger and move faster and quicker doesn't mean they can't be caught. It doesn't mean that they can't be killed. And certainly when we have enough time and money, we're going to go out there and do those kind of things, unfortunately. So when I saw this, I was like, man, I do believe this is something that really has happened before, and we probably do have some captured, sadly. Nothing that they're going to let the modern day person know about, but I certainly do think that's possible. But back to the fact that evolution. So I was talking about the evolution of the Sasquatch people becoming larger beings because they're literally evolving, and so are we. Right now, we're more different to Neanderthals. Just because of the past evolution that we've happened in the past couple thousand years. We're more different than them than we were when Homo sapiens seemed to first come about. Our DNA is literally transforming, it's evolving, it's changing. And so one of the things that seems to me is that spontaneous evolution is really how things work. Metamorphosis, if you will, basically. The caterpillar becoming the butterfly. There are points in history where all of a sudden this resonant energy in the earth, the Schumann cavity resonance, gets to be at such a high level, things just change abruptly. When you look at, I talked to Dan about this not so long ago. When you look at evolution, when we see these Cro-Magnon man, Neanderthals, and Homo sapiens and Paleolithic men, we don't see these people changing over millions of years from one to the other. That's not how it happens. You have one and you have the other. And throughout human history, we've seen different types of hominids on the planet. The Cro-Magnon man, Neanderthals, Homo sapiens, all on the planet at the same time. And we just want to believe at this point, so we feel safe, that only Homo sapiens exists now, which I know that's not true. There are definitely still different kinds of species on the planet today. But I think what's being hidden from us is that spontaneous evolution is what is available to us. And so man is in the process of changing to forms of light that are not of this world. I think what we can become at certain parts of our evolution is only limited by our imagination. I believe that there is a 0 point that's coming, and when that 0 point hits, what you believe is possible for you. If you think it's the end of the world, it will be the end of the world for you. If you believe it is a new beginning, where new processes and new evolution takes place with new ideas, new civilizations, educations, technologies, all the things, not even new, just rebirth to basically, we'll have the same things we had in the past. Again, I think that's possible, that we will see humans spontaneously evolve from a fear-based, small statured, small bones into a large, robust, strong, powerful being that we were intended to be, that we were intended to evolve into, like we see in Avatar, movies like that. I literally believe that humans can, not all of us will. Yes, we're talking about a portion. I mean, I don't think a lot of people make it through 0 point, and even fewer amount will evolve into these beings that I'm talking about. But I do believe a small group of people who believe in love, and not just believe in it, you know it, you feel it, it emits from you. Love is a more sporadic wave pattern that literally touches more parts of your DNA and flips on the switches of telepathy. I always say that word terribly. Telepathy, hands-on healing, all knowingness, audio, clairvoyance, all the things, right? So, and fear is a much higher wave pattern, lower crescents, higher troughs, higher crescents, lower troughs, and doesn't touch those parts of the DNA as much. So when we live in love, compassion, gratitude, we're literally turning switches on the DNA. When this 0 point hits, bam, baby, I'm talking about, I think that we will evolve into these giants again, that this is not something that happened in the past, it's over. These beings still exist. They're beings that are still evolving into giants. In my personal humble opinion, I believe as we gather up more information, more light, more love, basically saying that our spiritual bodies are bigger, right? So I'm a human, and I'm a Christ or a Buddha or whatever, and my light that's emitting from me, my pineal gland's open, my heart's open, I'm emitting large amounts of light and awareness and information, and I'm awake, right? Everybody's talking about I'm awakening. That's when the Buddha was asked what he was, he said, I'm awake. And I think he was awake. He was awake in the dream, right? And when we get to that level of awareness, and we no longer have to incarnate into bodies and forget who we are, right? That we can actually remember from then on out, we become masters of the universe. And in my humble opinion, I believe every single earth world was once a human like us, once an ascended being like us. That every star is a conscious being that's aware. So the earth lives for millions and billions of years. The sun, the stars live for even longer than that. The galaxies that's inside them, even longer than that. And the galaxy is a double helix spiral wave pattern, just like your DNA. The whole universe is literally consciousness. And even the universe itself was probably a being just like you, just like me before, until it expanded its awareness and its consciousness to a point it was able to harbor planets, stars, galaxies, and that universe is now part of the multiverse. And as each person expands enough awareness, enough information, enough light, you can become your own planet that lives for millions of years, to create your own rivers and streams and rock formations, and have your own children. You know, we are literally Mother Earth's children. And Father, Son, gives us that light to be able to live here. These two create a cosmic dance that creates life on it. That's incredible. That's all based on unconditional love. We have to let our love be like that, to be giving our light and love out to people, no matter what they do to us or say about us. I think it's imperative to be in that state if you really want to wake up to the fullest amount of your potential, and to go on and maybe inhabit larger systems, go beyond what we've learned and what we've been told as kids to what's possible. maybe being the masters of the universe, you know, whatever you want to call it. But and I want to leave you guys with this. So Bible, 1 Corinthians 15:51. Behold, I tell you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet. For the trumpet will sound, and the dead will be raised imperishable, and we shall all be changed. That is an incredible line about an incredible event that I believe happened in the past, that will happen again. And, you know, talking about changing in the twinkling of an eye, bam, something huge has happened. I mean, I believe every single person on here has probably had an epiphany, a revelation, aha moment, or eureka moment where something has happened to you, where you've mentally been changed. Sometimes a relationship or something comes about, changes you, breaks you down, emotionally changed in that moment. So mentally, physically, we've all had those things that have probably at this point now changed us spiritually. And certainly, if we can change in all those aspects in just a quick moment, in the twinkling of an eye, certainly physically, it would seem same as well. That this body, 99% empty space, that it's literally just a holographic picture. It's moving around and vibrating super fast. It looks solid, and sometimes it feels kind of solid. But at the end of the day, it's much more malleable than we think it is. And shape shifting that we've heard about in different races and aliens and things like that, it's not just something that one being or one species can do. Certainly anything that one person can do or one species can do, others can do. And so I do think that it is our royalty right as divine individuals, crafted from the one, that we all will can change in the twinkling of an eye, and something physically as different from Homo sapiens as a Neanderthal is to Homo sapien, or a, Paleolithic man. We can literally change into something different, maybe something bigger, maybe something with an elongated skull, with more brain capacity. I think all those things are possible. And some people may change in 8 feet, 10 feet. Some people may go, really expand and go all the way. But I do believe that we will see spontaneous evolution in our lifetimes, and there'll be things that that will help us in order to come together to create the change and push back against the force that is keeping us down and keeping us asleep. So, the giants have been on the earth back then, after that, and still today, I believe. So, hope you guys enjoy.